What was the moment that made you realize that audits and monitoring alone weren't enough and that teams needed something that could actually intervene in real time?
Great question. So we came up with the response product in Lloyd's of London. So we were working with insurers and just coming to them with the question of what is the one thing you're most worried about? What is the thing that keeps you up at night that makes you not confident in getting involved in the space? And what's the thing, if you would solve that, would let you increase limits and lower premiums? Basically, what unlocks things? And what we realized after diving into it is that what people are really underwriting in the crypto space is the custodian's controls or the wallet's controls. At the end of the day, that's the security that's put in place, and everything that happens before that leads up to that moment. But if they're breached for any reason, let's say an API key gets stolen, well, then that's it. You're kind of done. The funds are going to disappear and there's going to be a claim. And so that's where we realized that you needed something more than that. You needed to be able to automatically respond, not just wait on humans to come into the loop, but actually take an action without having to wait for people to come together. And that's where our product came from. And we've been developing it with them and now launching it and bringing it out and working widely across lots of different insurers, which is fantastic.
And Circuit focuses on detecting suspicious behavior in the mempool and acting before funds are actually lost. From your perspective, where do most security stacks fail, and why does this very last mile matter so much?
Yeah. So we think of it more broadly, we have built infrastructure that is not just mempool monitoring, but kind of think of it like any type of signal we can take an action for. Because we realize that, if you just have if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you have just one thing you're looking for, then you're just going to be looking for that all the time and potentially miss lots of other things. So it's been built in a way that we can kind of take anything that a security teams needs and be able to take that action for them. So it can be built to fit what they actually are looking for and are searching for. So that's the first part. So mempool monitoring is a part of it. We found that really, really helpful, particularly for things like Bitcoin, where in the vast, vast majority of cases, it'll pick up all the hacks and all the attacks, but it's not good for everything. And so where we have seen a lot of the issues lie is really having a point where there is a single point of failure. And if you don't have another layer of defense, or if you don't have something else that can catch things if things go wrong, there's something that's inevitably going to go wrong. That's what you kind of need to plan for. You need to plan for someone coming in hungover and pressing the wrong button or putting in the wrong zero, and that something else will catch it. And if there's like one thing in between that person pressing the wrong thing and $1 billion being gone, well, it's possibly going to happen. And so if you have something else for every part of the stack, then you're much, much more likely to be safe. And so that's what we see.
A lot of teams, and we see this, on our side of things as well, kind of at the opposite side of this security lifecycle from you guys. But a lot of teams still treat security as a checklist. So, yep, audit passed. Yep, shipping the contract. From everything that you've seen, why do you guys believe that that mindset is so dangerous once real capital and custodial wallets are involved?
Because if you're just treating it as a checklist, you don't really care. I think at the end of the day is if you don't question the checklist, if you don't question things behind it, then you aren't ultimately understanding why you're doing it, which is the whole purpose of trying to protect it. Checklists are good to give you the first set of things to look for, but you should ideally go beyond that. And what we're seeing is that, yes, particularly in like Web3, a lot of people are treating security as this kind of like afterthought, or we need to tick the boxes to be able to do the bare minimum to get this out there. The issue being is that causes billions of dollars to be lost every year. And we've seen that repeatedly. And despite security controls and checklists being in place and audits being in place, it isn't really enough because often then things can be missed or gaps can be found despite having ticked all the boxes in the checklist. And what that then leads to is that people also, if it's not in the checklist, it's like, oh, not worth it, not considering. When in reality, that could be the thing that actually protects you. What we have seen is that the next wave of entrants, the institutions, the FIs, the people who are kind of think of it like the institutions, big capital I that everyone's pointing towards, they are much, much more concerned about it. And it's less checkbox, more a case of how do we make sure that we don't or can't lose users' funds or as close to it as we can get? Because at the end of the day, once you have a lot of users' money, millions of dollars, billions of dollars, you produce your responsibility. And people kind of almost forgot that in crypto, where it's like, oh yeah, of course it's open code, it's code is lost, whatever. It's like, hey, you created it. And now we're seeing that change a little bit, and people are being a lot more cautious and taking many more steps, which is slower, but ideally will lead to less losses at the end of the day.
If you were designing the ideal security stack for a serious protocol or custodian today, what are the layers that you would include? And how would you think about the combination between prevention, detection, and response, and how those things work together?
Yep. So when we're trying to give people a mental model, because often people are like, oh, vendor here, vendor there, how does it all fit together? What we try and point towards is the NIST cybersecurity framework, which is like identify, protect, detect, respond, recover. And what's really great about the state of Web3 security is that we've now gotten to the point where actually all of those pieces can be put together. You don't have to build everything yourself. Because if you're now coming into the space and trying to build everything yourself, it's probably not the best idea in a lot of cases, particularly for things that are now infrastructure. And so when you think about protect, think of it like your wallet. It's your custodial wallet, it's your non-custodial wallet. And what they're doing is protecting against people accessing your private key. So they'll have cryptography, they'll have transaction policies, they'll have quorums, all of the things that basically try and prevent people from gaining unauthorized access to move the funds anywhere they want. The next layer being detection. So think of this like on-chain monitoring or signal detection. What they're doing is they're looking for patterns, they're looking for suspicious activity, looking for, hey, this was a hack in the past and we see something like it happening again. Red alert, you should do something. Then the next step, which is response, is where circuit fits. And that's what we saw as kind of like that missing piece is that, great, you have a red alert, you need to take an action, but the funds may already be gone by the time you get people to take a look at it. And so if you can automatically take that response, if you can automatically move the funds to safety, well, then that actually ties it really, really nicely together. It makes it much, much more likely that funds are recovered. And then recovery is kind of disaster recovery, end of world scenario, worst case scenario, if there's a custodian failure, if there's a wallet provider failure, how do you get everything back up online? And there's the total, think of it like backup, which is key backup. You take a private key, you reconstitute it, and you do it somewhere else. Or there's actually like recovery of moving funds to a different wallet. And so you need to have all those pieces together. If you have them all together, you're in a pretty good place. Obviously, then you would ideally like audits. You'd like people to come in and check that all the things are working because great, you have a wallet, but then the transaction policies aren't configured. It's probably not that helpful. Or it's like if you have set up circuit and there's no whitelisting on it, it's like, oh, great, also not that helpful. So just purchasing software isn't enough. You need to make sure that you're thinking about why does it fit into the operations that you have, where are the things that are likely to go wrong, and how can we actually just stop funds from disappearing? So that's what I'd recommend.
And let's get into the final course. So this is your opportunity to share with us your security hot take. What do you think most people are still getting wrong, kind of overall in security and digital assets today?
Yeah. So hot take. One of the things I think we saw is that in security, everyone is very, very private key focused. And if you take a step back out and say, okay, what is the thing we care most about? If you had to choose, would you choose the private key or the assets themselves? And you choose the assets. That's the thing that really matters. But a lot of resources and energy and attention has all gone to the private keys and the security around them versus saying, well, imagine even if the key was lost or the key was compromised, how would we still protect those assets? And so that's the approach that we've taken that allows us to do what we do and means that even if the private keys are compromised or even if private keys are stolen, you can still recover those assets and take the funds out. So hot take is assets, not keys.